The silence of deep space stretched endlessly around the Zephyrian surveillance vessel, Silent Watcher. Commander Velthar stood on the bridge, his 6 arms folded behind his back as he watched the star patterns through the main viewing port. His species had been exploring the galaxy for over 3,000 years, mapping trade routes and cataloging new civilizations. Today was supposed to be another routine patrol along the Outer Rim territories. Science Officer Crixon suddenly straightened at his console, his multiple eyes focusing on the sensor display. "Commander, I'm detecting an unknown vessel approaching our position. Distance is approximately 50,000 kilometers and closing slowly." Velthar moved to the sensor station with fluid grace. His people were naturally curious, and first, contact with new species always brought excitement. "Show me the vessel, Crixon." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a ship unlike anything in their extensive databases. The vessel was dark gray, almost black, with sharp angles that seemed to cut through space itself. It moved with purpose, not the wandering drift of an exploration vessel or the steady course of a merchant ship. This craft looked like it was built for hunting. "Interesting design," Velthar murmured, studying the ship's profile. "It appears to be constructed for speed and maneuverability. What can our sensors tell us about its capabilities?" Crixon's fingers danced across his console. "The vessel is approximately 600 meters in length. I'm detecting multiple energy signatures, but their technology is unfamiliar. The power output is significant for a ship of that size." On the bridge of the human destroyer, USS Defiant, Captain Jake Morrison was having his morning coffee when Lieutenant Amy Brooks called out from the tactical station. "Captain, we have a contact on long-range sensors. Unknown vessel, maintaining, distance but definitely watching us." Morrison set down his coffee cup and walked over to look at the tactical display. "How long have they been there, Amy?" "Just appeared on sensors about 2 minutes ago, sir. They're not moving toward us, but they're not running away either. Looks like they're just observing." Chief Engineer Pete Collins looked up from his engineering station. "Should I prep the weapon systems, Captain?" Morrison shook his head. "No, let's see what they want first. This could be our first contact with a new species. We should follow proper protocols." He turned to Brooks. "Are they scanning us?" Brooks checked her instruments carefully. "Yes, sir, but it's not invasive. Seems like they're just taking a look from the outside. Nothing penetrating our shields or systems." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. First contact situations were always delicate. Humanity had only been in space for about 200 years, and they had met only a handful of other intelligent species. Most encounters had been peaceful, though not always successful in establishing trade or diplomatic relations. Back on the Silent Watcher, Commander Velthar was growing more curious by the minute. "The vessel has noticed our presence, but they haven't moved to intercept or flee. Most species either run from unknown contacts or approach with weapons ready. These beings seem patient." "Perhaps they're as curious about us as we are about them," suggested Crixon. "Should I begin a detailed scan? We could learn much about their technology and biology." Velthar considered this carefully. The Zephyrians were known throughout their region of space for their advanced scanning technology. They could learn everything about a vessel and its crew without the need for direct communication. This information was invaluable for determining whether a new species might be friend or foe. "Yes, begin the scan. Use the deep penetration array. I want to know everything about these beings and their ship." On the Defiant, Dr. Lisa Martinez was reviewing star charts in the science bay when her instruments began registering unusual energy patterns. She called the bridge immediately. "Captain Morrison, I'm detecting some kind of scanning beam directed at our ship. It's much more sophisticated than anything we've seen before." Morrison's voice came through the communicator. "Is it dangerous, Lisa?" "I don't think so, sir. It seems to be purely passive. They're not trying to disable our systems or steal our data. It's more like they're taking a very detailed picture of our ship and everything in it." Morrison made his decision quickly. "Let them scan. We'll do the same to them. Maybe we can learn something useful before we try to communicate." Dr. Lisa Martinez began her own scans of the alien vessel. What she found was fascinating. The ship appeared to be constructed from materials that were both lightweight and incredibly strong. The design was elegant, built for exploration and scientific research rather than combat. She could detect multiple beings aboard, though their life signs were unlike anything in human databases. Meanwhile, Crixon was beginning his deep scan of the human vessel. The first results were interesting but not alarming. The ship was well built, with solid construction and efficient design. The crew appeared to be a carbon-based life form, similar to many species the Zephyrians had encountered before. "Initial scan results are coming in, Commander," Crixon reported. "The vessel appears to be some kind of patrol or escort ship. The beings aboard are bipedal, carbon-based, and seem to be relatively young as a spacefaring species." "Continue." "The scan," Velthar ordered. "I want complete structural and technological analysis. If we're going to make contact, we need to understand their capabilities." As the minutes passed, both ships continued their mutual examination. The human crew went about their normal duties, unaware that they were about to become the subject of the most disturbing discovery in Zephyrian history. Captain Morrison finished his coffee and reviewed the patrol schedule, thinking this might turn into an interesting day of peaceful first contact. Commander Velthar watched the data stream across his screens, confident that within an hour they would have a complete understanding of these new beings and their vessel. He had no idea that what Crixon was about to uncover would haunt the Zephyrian people for generations to come. Science Officer Crixon activated the most powerful scanning array in the Zephyrian fleet. The deep penetration scanners could see through any known material and map every component of a vessel down to the molecular level. He had used this technology hundreds of times before on dozens of different species. Each scan had revealed predictable patterns of construction and design philosophy that matched what the Zephyrians expected from civilizations at various levels of development. The energy beam reached out across space and began to penetrate the hull of the human destroyer. Crixon watched his screens as layer after layer of the ship's structure became visible. At first, everything seemed normal. The outer hull was made of a dense metal alloy, and the ship had multiple decks arranged in a logical pattern. But as the scan went deeper, Crixon began to notice something unusual. "Commander, this is strange. The hull is much thicker than it needs to be for a ship of this size. Most species build their ships with enough protection to handle small asteroids and cosmic radiation. This vessel's armor could withstand direct impacts from large meteorites." Commander Velthar moved closer to examine the data. "Perhaps they come from a dangerous region of space. Many species overbuild their ships when they live near asteroid fields or unstable stars." Crixon continued his scan, penetrating deeper into the ship's interior. What he found next made him pause. "Commander, look at this. Every major system has backup systems, and those backup systems have backup systems. I'm detecting triple redundancy on life support, power distribution, navigation, and communications." "That's excessive," Velthar said slowly. "Most species use single backups for critical systems. Why would they need so many?" The scan revealed more puzzling details. The corridors inside the ship were wider than necessary, with reinforced walls that could serve as defensive positions. Emergency bulkheads were scattered throughout the vessel, designed to seal off damaged sections instantly. Even the crew quarters had blast doors that could turn living spaces into individual bunkers. On the human ship, Lieutenant Amy Brooks noticed that the alien scanning had intensified. Her instruments showed energy readings that were off the charts. "Captain, that scanning beam just got a lot stronger. They're really taking a close look at us now." Captain Morrison nodded. "Any interference with our systems?" "None at all, sir. Whatever they're doing, they're being very careful not to disrupt our operations." Chief Engineer Pete Collins was in the engine room, performing routine maintenance on the reactor core. The massive fusion plant hummed quietly, producing enough power to supply a small city. The engineering section was built like a fortress with multiple layers of shielding and containment systems. Pete had worked on civilian ships before joining the military, and he knew the Defiant was built to standards that seemed almost paranoid compared to merchant vessels. Back on the Silent Watcher, Crixon's scan had reached the ship's power core, and what he saw there made his blood run cold. "Commander, You need to see this immediately. Velthar hurried over as Crixon displayed the scan results on the main screen. The human ship's reactor was not just powerful, it was designed for combat operations. The core was wrapped in multiple OI containment fields, each one capable of holding back an explosion that would destroy most ships. The power output was enormous, far beyond what should be needed for a vessel of this size. Why would they need so much power? Velthar whispered. I don't know, Commander, but look at this. Crixon highlighted different sections of the ship. The power distribution system is designed to handle massive energy spikes. And see these conduits running throughout the ship? They're not just for normal operations. These are built to channel huge amounts of energy very quickly. The implications were starting to become clear, and neither alien wanted to voice what they were thinking. Crixon continued his scan, hoping to find something that would make sense of what they were seeing. Dr. Lisa Martinez was in her laboratory, studying the scans of the alien vessel. Their ship was beautiful in its simplicity, built for exploration and scientific research. The aliens seemed peaceful, with technology focused on observation and analysis rather than conflict. She made notes about possible cultural exchange opportunities. Meanwhile, Crixon's scan had reached the weapon systems of the human ship, and what he found there defied all logic. The vessel carried enough firepower to level a city. The weapons were not defensive systems designed to ward off pirates or small threats. These were ship killers designed to destroy other warships. Commander, Crixon's voice was barely a whisper. This isn't a patrol ship. This is a warship. A very powerful warship. Velthar studied the weapon systems displayed on his screen. Missile launchers that could fire dozens of projectiles simultaneously. Energy weapons that could cut through the heaviest armor. Point defense systems designed to stop incoming attacks from multiple directions at once. But they're not using them, Velthar said, trying to make sense of the situation. They've allowed us to scan them freely. They haven't powered up weapons or raised shields. They're acting like peaceful explorers. Maybe they don't see us as a threat, Crixon suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. The scan continued, revealing more disturbing details. The ship's medical bay was set up like a field hospital, designed to handle massive casualties. The crew quarters had emergency medical supplies and combat gear stored in every room. Even the ship's dining hall had emergency bulkheads and could be converted into a defensive position in minutes. Commander Velthar was beginning to realize that they had not encountered a peaceful exploration vessel. They had found something much more dangerous, something that looked like peace but was built for war. And the most terrifying part was that the humans seemed to consider this normal. Continue the scan, he ordered quietly. I need to know everything about these beings. As the minutes passed, each new discovery made the picture clearer and more frightening. This was not just a warship. This was a warship built by a species that understood warfare in ways the Zephyrians had never imagined. Science Officer Crixon's hands trembled as he continued the deep scan of the human vessel. What he had discovered so far was already beyond his understanding, but the scanning array was just getting started. The next phase would examine the ship's complete weapons inventory and defensive capabilities. The results that appeared on his screen made him step back in shock. The human destroyer carried enough missiles to destroy a small moon. Each warhead was designed with multiple stages, capable of penetrating the heaviest known armor before detonating with the force of a small star. But these were not even the ship's primary weapons. Commander Velthar, Crixon called out, his voice shaking. You must see this immediately. The weapons systems, they're not built to fight ships like ours. Commander Velthar approached the scanner station, and what he saw made his 6 arms go numb. The human vessel's main guns were massive, designed to fire projectiles at speeds that would crack planets. The energy requirements for a single shot were more than most ships used in an entire year of operation. What kind of enemies are they? Expecting to fight, Velthar whispered. The scan revealed even more terrifying details. The ship's armor was not just thick, it was layered with multiple types of protection. Reactive armor that would explode outward to deflect incoming weapons. Energy shields that could absorb direct hits from weapons the Zephyrians didn't even know existed. Hull plating that could regenerate itself after being damaged. Crixon's scan moved to the ship's internal structure, And what he found there was perhaps the most disturbing discovery yet. Every corridor, every room, every space inside the ship was designed as a potential battlefield. The walls had built-in weapon mounts that could be activated in seconds. Emergency armor plating could slide out of hidden compartments to create instant bunkers. They expect to fight inside their own ship, Crixon said in disbelief. They've built their vessel assuming enemies will board it, and they plan to fight them deck by deck, room by room. On the human destroyer, Captain Morrison was reviewing the morning reports when Chief Medical Officer Dr. Karen White entered the bridge. She was making her routine rounds, checking on the crew's health and morale. The Defiant had been on patrol for 3 weeks, and everyone was in good spirits despite the long deployment. "How's the crew holding up, Karen?" Morrison asked. "Everyone's doing well, Captain. No major health issues and morale is high. The men and women are ready for whatever comes next." Morrison nodded. His crew was typical of human military personnel, trained for years to handle any situation. They could fight, repair, heal, and survive under conditions that would break most beings. But to Morrison, this was just normal military readiness. Unknown. To Dr. White, the alien scanners were at that moment analyzing human biology, and what they discovered was adding to Crixon's growing horror. The scan revealed that humans were not just intelligent beings who happened to build weapons. They were weapons themselves. Human bones were dense and strong, designed to withstand impacts that would shatter the skeletons of most species. Their muscles were built for explosive power and endurance. Their cardiovascular system could function under extreme stress, pumping blood and oxygen even when the body was severely damaged. "Commander," Crixon reported, his voice barely audible. "The beings themselves are adapted for combat. Their bodies are built to survive and fight in conditions that would kill most life forms." Velthar studied the biological data with growing dread. Human reflexes were lightning fast. Their senses were sharp and focused. Even their brains showed adaptations for processing multiple threats simultaneously while maintaining tactical awareness. The scan continued deeper into the ship's databases, and fragments of information began to paint a picture that neither alien wanted to see. References to previous battles, casualty reports, and tactical analyses filled the ship's memory banks. The humans had not just built one warship. They had built thousands. Lieutenant Tony Garcia was in the communications center, monitoring various channels for any signs of trouble in the sector. The deep space patrol routes were usually quiet, but pirates and smugglers sometimes used remote areas to conduct illegal business. Tony's job was to listen for any transmissions that might indicate criminal activity. The alien scanner was also monitoring human communications, and what it found in the ship's databases was a catalog of warfare, unlike anything in Zephyrian history. Battle reports from conflicts across dozens of star systems. Tactical manuals that described how to fight enemies with superior technology. Strategic plans for wars against multiple opponents simultaneously. "They don't just fight one enemy at a time," Crixon reported in horror. "Their military doctrine assumes they will face multiple superior opponents and still expect to win." The scan revealed something even more disturbing. The ship's computer contained references to other human vessels, and the Defiant was classified as a light destroyer. The database mentioned heavy cruisers, battleships, and dreadnoughts that made the current vessel look like a scout ship. Commander Velthar felt his confidence drain away completely. "This isn't their most powerful ship?" "No, Commander. According to their own records, this is considered a patrol vessel. Their battle fleets carry ships 10 times larger with weapons that could destroy entire star systems." The most terrifying discovery came when the scan accessed the ship's historical databases. Humanity's past was filled with endless conflicts. Wars between nations, wars between planets, wars against their own environment. Every generation had been shaped by battle, creating a species that saw conflict as a natural part of existence. "They've been fighting for their entire history," Crixon whispered. "Not just occasional conflicts or territorial disputes. Constant warfare. Every human alive is descended from warriors who survived countless battles." The alien scanner revealed the final piece of the puzzle. The human ship was not just built for war. It was built by beings who had never known true peace. Every system, Every weapon, every defensive measure was designed by minds that understood warfare at a level that peaceful species could never comprehend. Velthar realized with growing terror that they had not discovered a new species to study and catalog. They had found apex predators, creatures so perfectly adapted for warfare that their very existence changed the balance of power in the galaxy. And these predators were currently being peaceful, which somehow made them even more frightening. The alien scanning beam penetrated deeper into the human ship's computer systems, accessing databases that contained fragments of human history and culture. Science Officer Crixon watched in growing horror as images and data streams flowed across, his screens revealing the true nature of the species they had encountered. The first historical record showed primitive humans fighting with simple weapons made of stone and wood. But even in these early images, Crixon could see something that made his blood freeze. These ancient humans were not just fighting for survival like most species did. They were fighting each other, constantly, endlessly, with a creativity and brutality that seemed impossible. "Commander Velthar," Crixon called out, his voice barely steady. "The historical data. It's showing their entire development as a species. They've been at war with themselves for thousands of years." Velthar moved to the scanner display and watched as images of human conflicts flashed by. Ancient battles, with swords and spears. Medieval wars with castles and siege engines. More recent conflicts with explosives and aircraft. The progression was terrifying in its consistency. Every generation has perfected new ways to destroy their enemies, Velthar observed. But look at this, Crixon. They're not just fighting external threats, they're fighting their own species. The database revealed conflicts that spanned continents and lasted for decades. Humans had fought over resources, territory, beliefs, and sometimes for reasons that seemed to make no sense to the peaceful Zephyrians. But what was most disturbing was how these conflicts had shaped human development. Each war had driven rapid advances in technology, medicine, and strategy. Humans had learned to heal terrible wounds because they inflicted terrible wounds. They had developed better materials because they needed to stop better weapons. They had created faster communications because they needed to coordinate larger battles. On the human destroyer, Lieutenant Tony Garcia was monitoring communications channels when he began picking up fragments of alien transmissions. The universal translator was having difficulty with the language, but certain words came through clearly. Words like impossible, how many, and nightmare species. Tony frowned as he listened to more of the transmission. The aliens seemed to be discussing the human ship, but their tone was not curious or friendly. They sounded frightened, almost panicked. He decided to report this to Captain Morrison immediately. "Captain, I'm picking up alien communications and they seem very upset about something. The translator is catching words that suggest they're afraid of us." Captain Morrison was puzzled. "Afraid? We haven't done anything threatening. We're just sitting here letting them scan us." Meanwhile, Crixon's deep scan had accessed more recent human history, and what he found there was even more disturbing than the ancient conflicts. Humans had developed weapons that could destroy entire cities with a single bomb. They had fought wars in space, underwater, and in frozen wastelands. They had created weapons that could kill from orbit and others that could hunt targets across star systems. "Commander, look at these weapon designs," Crixon said, highlighting various database entries. "They've created devices that can poison entire planets, weapons that can turn stars into bombs, ships that can destroy fleets while traveling faster than light." But the most terrifying discovery was yet to come. The scan revealed that humans had not just fought external enemies. They had fought their own environment, their own planet, and even their own extinction. Multiple times in their history, the species had faced complete annihilation and had fought their way back to survival. They've survived planetary disasters that would have ended most civilizations, Velthar said in disbelief. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues that killed most of their population, and each time they adapted and became stronger. The database showed how humans had learned to live in environments that would kill other species. Frozen wastelands, burning, deserts, toxic atmospheres, and the vacuum of space itself. They had not just adapted to these conditions, they had thrived in them. Chief Engineer Pete Collins was performing routine maintenance in the engine room, unaware that alien scanners were cataloging every aspect of human engineering. The fusion reactor that powered the Defiant was just one example of how humans approached problems. Where other species might build elegant, efficient solutions, humans built systems that could work under the worst possible conditions. The reactor could run on multiple types of fuel, operate with significant damage, and continue functioning even if most of its control systems were destroyed. It was not just an engine, it was a symbol of human engineering philosophy. Build it strong enough to survive anything, then build it stronger. Crixon's scan accessed the ship's tactical databases, revealing something that made both aliens step back from their stations. The human military did not just plan for victory. They planned for defeat, capture, torture, and death. Every human soldier was trained to continue fighting even when their situation was hopeless. They have protocols for fighting when outnumbered 1,000 to 1, Crixon reported in a voice filled with dread. Battle plans for scenarios where they face technologically superior enemies with unlimited resources, and they expect to win. The most disturbing revelation came when the scan accessed personal records of the crew. These humans, who seemed so calm and peaceful, all had combat training. Every single person on the ship, from the captain to the cook, knew how to fight, how to kill, and how to survive in situations that would break most civilized beings. Dr. Lisa Martinez was in her laboratory, studying the peaceful alien vessel through her own scanners. She was making notes about possible scientific cooperation and cultural exchange. The alien ship was beautiful, clearly built by beings who valued knowledge and understanding over conflict. She had no idea that at that very moment, those same beings were discovering that her species represented the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. The scan revealed that even human scientists and doctors received combat training as a matter of course. Commander Velthar finally understood what they had discovered. Crixon, we are not looking at a military ship crewed by soldiers. We are looking at a species where every individual is a potential warrior. They don't have a military class. They are all military. The final pieces of data confirmed their worst fears. The human ship's computer contained references to something called total war doctrine. Humans had developed the concept of warfare, where entire civilizations mobilized every resource, every citizen, and every capability toward complete victory or complete destruction. They don't fight to win territory or resources, Velthar whispered. They fight to eliminate threats completely. When they go to war with everything they have. As the implications sank in, both aliens realized they were not just looking at a dangerous species. They were looking at a species that had evolved warfare into an art form, and they had been doing it for so long that violence and conflict were as natural to them as breathing. The most terrifying thought of all was that these beings were currently at peace, which meant they were not at war with anyone. Yet. Science Officer Crixon stared at his scanning console as the final data streams completed their analysis of the human warship. His hands moved across the controls with desperate speed, trying to process information that his mind could barely accept. Everything the scan had revealed painted a picture of a species so perfectly adapted for warfare that their very existence threatened the balance of the entire galaxy. "Commander," Crixon said, his voice shaking. "The scan is complete. The full analysis shows that this species has never known true peace. Even during their quietest periods, they were preparing for the next conflict." Commander Velthar stood frozen as he watched the final reports scroll across his screens. The human ship contained detailed battle plans for fighting enemies they had never met, using weapons they had not yet built in wars that might never happen. But most terrifying of all was the discovery that humans considered this normal military preparation. "Begin immediate data purge," Velthar ordered suddenly. "Delete everything we've learned about this species from our active databases." Crixon looked at his commander in surprise. "Sir, this is the most significant discovery in Zephyrian history. Surely the Science Council will want to study this data." "No," Velthar said firmly. "Some knowledge is too dangerous to preserve. If other species learned what we've discovered about these humans, It could cause panic across the galaxy. Begin the purge immediately. As Crixon reluctantly started deleting the scan data, he couldn't help but look one more time at the biological analysis of the human crew. Every single person aboard that ship carried the genetic memory of countless generations of survivors. Their ancestors had lived through wars, plagues, natural disasters, and extinction events that would have destroyed any other species. On the human destroyer USS Defiant, Captain Jake Morrison was finishing his morning briefing when Lieutenant Tony Garcia approached with a puzzled expression. "Captain, those alien communications I've been monitoring are getting stranger. They keep using words like retreat and emergency protocols. It sounds like they're preparing to leave in a hurry." Morrison frowned. "That's odd. We haven't done anything to make them feel unwelcome. Dr. Martinez, what do your scans show about their ship?" Dr. Lisa Martinez looked up from her science station. "Their vessel appears to be a research ship, Captain. Very advanced sensors and analysis equipment, but no visible weapons. They seem like peaceful explorers, just like us." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe they're just cautious. First contact situations can be unpredictable. Continue monitoring their communications, Tony. Let me know if anything changes." What Morrison and his crew didn't realize was that their casual attitude toward the situation was exactly what made them so terrifying to the aliens. The humans treated their heavily armed warship as a normal patrol vessel. They carried enough firepower to destroy planets and considered it routine equipment. On the Silent Watcher, Commander Velthar was making the most difficult decision of his career. The data they had collected revealed that humanity was not just another spacefaring species. They were apex predators who had turned warfare into a science and conflict into an art form. "Crixon, has the data purge been completed?" "Yes, Commander, all active files have been deleted, but sir, I still remember what we saw. The other crew members remember too." Velthar nodded grimly. "We will speak of this to no one. What we've learned about these humans must remain classified at the highest levels. Prepare an encrypted message to Zephyrian High Command." As Crixon prepared the communication system, Velthar composed the most important message he would ever send. The two words he chose would shape his civilization's policy toward humanity for generations to come. To Zephyrian High Command, Priority Alpha Classification. We have encountered a new spacefaring species near coordinate 779 Mark 442. Recommendation: avoid all contact. Mark this region as forbidden space. Do not approach. Do not engage. Do not provoke. The species designation is human, and they represent a threat level beyond our current classification system.
Meanwhile, on the Defiant, Captain Morrison was reviewing patrol schedules when Chief Engineer Pete Collins called from the engine room. "Captain, I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from that alien ship. Looks like they're powering up."
Their engines for departure. Morrison walked over to the tactical display where Lieutenant Amy Brooks was tracking the alien vessel's movements. "They're definitely preparing to leave, Captain. All their systems are coming online for what looks like a high-speed departure." "Should we try to communicate with them before they go?" Morrison asked. "This might be our only chance to establish diplomatic relations with their species." Brooks prepared the communication system. "I've got a standard first contact greeting. Ready to transmit, sir? Universal friendship protocols, offers of cultural exchange, that sort of thing." "Send it," Morrison ordered. The message transmitted across space in multiple languages and mathematical formats, designed to show human peaceful intentions and desire for friendly contact. The signal reached the Silent Watcher just as Commander Velthar was finalizing his emergency departure procedures. When the translation came through, offering friendship and cultural exchange from beings who carried planet-killing weapons as standard equipment, it sent the Zephyrian crew into complete panic. "Emergency jump!" Velthar shouted. "Maximum speed, any direction away from here." The Silent Watcher's engines roared to life, and the ship disappeared into hyperspace so quickly that it left behind a brief flash of energy. On the Defiant, the sudden departure registered on all sensors as the alien vessel vanished without any response to the human greeting. "Well, that was rude," Morrison said with a shrug. "Another failed first contact, I guess. Some species just aren't ready for diplomatic relations." Lieutenant Brooks secured the communication system. "Should I file a report about the encounter, Captain?" Just a standard patrol log entry. Unknown alien vessel, brief contact, no communication established. Nothing unusual to report. As the Defiant continued its patrol route, none of the human crew realized that their simple existence had just caused a fundamental shift in galactic politics. Commander Velthar's encrypted message would reach Zephyrian High Command within days, and from there, whispered warnings would spread through underground diplomatic channels. Within months, stories would circulate among various alien civilizations about a terrifying new species that had entered galactic space, beings so adapted to warfare that they carried world-ending weapons on their patrol ships. A species that had survived everything their harsh planet could throw at them, and had emerged stronger from every conflict. The final entry in the Silent Watcher's official log read simply, "Encountered unknown species. Recommend extreme caution. Do not engage under any circumstances." But in the classified files that only the highest levels of Zephyrian Command would ever see, Commander Velthar's full report contained a single line that would haunt alien nightmares for years to come. They call themselves humans, and if they ever choose war over peace, the galaxy will burn. Far away on the human destroyer, Captain Morrison finished his coffee and settled in for another quiet day of routine patrol, completely unaware that his species had just become the most feared name whispered in the dark corners of alien space.